Hello, story lovers. Tonight, we're diving into a tale of passion, secrets, and choices that could change everything. Hearts will be broken, love will be tested, and every twist will leave you on the edge of your seat. Comment below where you're watching from, and if this story moves you, hit like, subscribe, share it with someone who loves a powerful love story, and tap the bell so you never miss the next thrilling chapter. Ready? Let's begin. Asterisk, the rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Sterling Tower like bullets against armor. Maya Rodriguez pressed her forehead against the cold glass, watching the city blur through sheets of water 43 floors below. The rejection letter crumpled in her fist felt heavier than the student loan debt, crushing her dreams. Another one? Her reflection stared back, hollow-eyed and desperate. 6 months. 6 months since graduation, and every marketing position in the city had either ghosted her or delivered the same polite knife twist. We've decided to move forward with a candidate who better fits our current needs. Her phone buzzed. A text from her roommate, Jessica. Saw a posting for Sterling Industries. Deadline tonight? Worth a shot? Maya's stomach dropped. Sterling Industries. Everyone knew the name, and more importantly, everyone knew its founder. Alexander Sterling had built an empire from the ashes of his family's bankruptcy, clawing his way from nothing to everything. But his reputation preceded him like a warning shot. Employees either worshipped him or fled in terror. There was no middle ground. The lobby of Sterling Tower felt like entering a cathedral of ambition. Marble floors reflected designer lighting, and the air hummed with the electricity of deals being made and fortunes being won or lost. Maya's thrift store blazer suddenly felt like wearing cardboard to a black tie event. Maya Rodriguez for the marketing interview, she told the receptionist, whose smile was as polished as her manicured nails. 32nd floor. Mr. Sterling is waiting. The elevator ride stretched like eternity. Each ascending floor made her chest tighter, her breathing shallower. She'd researched every interview Alexander Sterling had ever given, watched every business conference speech. Nothing could prepare her for the man himself. The doors opened to reveal an office that belonged in an architectural magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city's skyline, and modern art pieces worth more than her yearly rent adorned the walls. Behind a desk that could double as a small aircraft carrier sat Alexander Sterling. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe 35, with dark hair and features that belonged on magazine covers rather than balance sheets. When his eyes met hers, Maya felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, wind whipping around her, deciding whether to jump or run. Sit. His voice carried the weight of someone who'd never had to repeat himself. You have 10 minutes to convince me you're not another waste of my time. Maya sat, her prepared speech evaporating like morning mist. Alexander leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, studying her with the intensity of a predator sizing up prey. Your resume is impressive for someone with 0 real-world experience, he said, his tone sharp enough to cut glass. Tell me why I shouldn't throw it in the trash right now. Because I know what it's like to have nothing, Maya replied, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. And I know what it's like to fight for everything you want, even when the world tells you you're not good enough. Something flickered in Alexander's eyes. Interest, maybe, or recognition. He stood and walked to the window, his silhouette commanding, even in shadow. I don't believe in participation trophies or safe spaces. This company exists because we demand perfection, not potential. Most people break under that pressure. I'm not most people. Alexander turned back to face her, and, for the first time, his expression held something other than cold calculation. Almost like he was seeing her, really seeing her, instead of just another desperate graduate. 30 days, he said. A trial period. Work directly under me. Late nights, impossible deadlines. Clients who will chew you up and spit you out. If you survive, you get the position. If you don't, I'll survive. We'll see. He returned to his desk, picking up a pen with the finality of a judge's gavel. Your trial starts Monday. Don't be late. Don't make excuses. And don't expect mercy just because you're new. Maya stood, extending her hand. When Alexander took it, his grip was firm, confident, and sent an unexpected jolt of electricity through her entire system. For a moment, neither of them moved, caught in something that felt dangerous and inevitable. Thank you for the opportunity. Alexander's eyes darkened. Don't thank me yet. You have no idea what you've just signed up for. Monday morning arrived like a declaration of war. Maya stood in the elevator at 6:45 a.m., her reflection multiplied in the polished steel doors. She'd barely slept, her mind racing between terror and determination. The marketing floor was already buzzing with activity, a hive of ambition and barely concealed desperation. You must be the trial girl. A woman with platinum blonde hair and a smile sharp enough to draw blood appeared at Maya's shoulder. I'm Victoria. Word of advice? Keep your head down and don't take anything he says personally. Alexander's bark is worse than his bite, but his bite can still destroy careers. Before Maya could respond, Alexander's voice cut through the morning chatter like a blade. Conference room, now. The team filed in like soldiers marching toward battle. Alexander stood at the head of the table, his presence sucking all the oxygen. From the room, he began rattling off assignments and deadlines with machine gun precision, his expectations so high they seemed designed to break spirits. Rodriguez. His eyes found hers across the table, and Maya felt every other gaze in the film. Room turned toward her. The Harrison account. They're our biggest pharmaceutical client, and they're threatening to walk. Presentation is Thursday. Don't disappoint me. The Harrison account was worth $12 million. Maya had never handled anything worth $1,200, let alone $12 million. She felt the weight of 20 curious stares, some sympathetic, others clearly waiting for her spectacular failure. The next 3 days blurred into a nightmare of research, client calls, and endless revisions. Maya found herself staying later each night, the office gradually emptying until it was just her, the cleaning crew, and the city lights bleeding through the windows. Wednesday night, she was alone in the conference room, surrounded by coffee, cups and crumpled papers, when Alexander appeared in the doorway. He'd loosened his tie and rolled up his sleeves, looking almost human instead of the corporate machine she'd met on Monday. Still here? He stepped into the room, glancing at the presentation materials scattered across the table like battle plans. Where else would I be? Home, asleep like any sane person. Maya looked up from her laptop, and for a moment something passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or understanding. Show me what you have. For the next hour, Maya walked him through her strategy. Alexander listened with the intensity of a man defusing a bomb, asking questions that pushed her thinking into territories she hadn't explored. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. It's good, he said finally. Better than I expected. But good isn't enough for Harrison. They'll tear apart anything less than perfect. Then help me make it perfect. Alexander raised an eyebrow. That's not how this works. You sink or swim on your own. But you want this account to succeed. Your reputation is on the line too. Something shifted in Alexander's expression, like a mask slipping just enough to reveal the man underneath. The vulnerability lasted only a second, but Maya caught it. You're either very brave or very stupid. Maybe both. Alexander sat down across from her, pulling the presentation materials. Closer. Fine. We'll work on it together. But this doesn't change anything about your trial. As they worked side by side, Maya began to see cracks in Alexander's armor. The way he absently ran his hand through his hair when he was thinking. How his whole face transformed when he smiled at a particularly clever solution. The loneliness that seemed to radiate from him like heat from a furnace. "Why do you do this?" she asked around 2 a.m., when exhaustion had worn away her professional filter. "Do what?" "Push everyone away. Make everything a test." Alexander's pen stopped moving. The silence stretched between them like a taut wire. "Because people leave," he said quietly. "They always leave. But if they never get close enough to matter, it doesn't hurt when they go." Maya felt something crack open in her chest. Not everyone leaves. Alexander looked at her then, really looked. At her, and Maya saw something raw and desperate in his eyes that made her breath catch. "Don't," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Don't make me believe that." The moment hung between them like a bridge neither dared to cross. Then Alexander's phone buzzed, shattering the spell. He glanced at the screen, and his entire demeanor shifted back to ice. Get some sleep. Big day tomorrow. He stood, gathering his things with mechanical precision. "Alexander, wait." He stopped at the doorway, but didn't turn around. "Ms. Rodriguez, in this office it's Mr. Sterling. Remember that." The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a door slamming shut on something that could have been beautiful. Thursday arrived with the weight of Judgment Day. Maya stood before the bathroom mirror at 6 a.m., trying to convince herself that the dark circles under her eyes looked professional rather than desperate. The Harrison presentation was in 4 hours, and her entire future balanced on the edge of a knife. The Harrison executives filed into the conference room like a tribunal. 3 men in identical Navy suits with expressions that suggested they'd rather be anywhere else on Earth. Mr. Harrison himself was a silver-haired man with eyes like a shark's, flat and calculating. "Before we begin," Harrison said, not bothering with pleasantries, "I should mention that Morrison and Associates has already presented. They're offering a 20% reduction in fees." Maya felt the blood drain from her face. Alexander, sitting at the far end of the table, showed no reaction whatsoever. His silence felt like abandonment. "Numbers are important," Maya began, her voice steadier than she felt. "But what's more important is results. Morrison can offer you 20% off, but I can offer you something better. I can offer you the truth." She clicked to her first slide. "Your last 3 campaigns failed, not because of budget constraints or market conditions. They failed because they treated your customers like statistics instead of human beings." For the next 30 minutes, Maya dissected every failed Harrison, campaigned with surgical precision, and rebuilt their entire marketing strategy from the ground up. She spoke about emotional connection, about the fear and hope that drove people to seek medical solutions, about the responsibility they had to be honest brokers of healing. When she finished, the room was silent. Harrison leaned back in his chair, studying her like she was a particularly interesting specimen. "Impressive," he said finally. "But idealism doesn't pay the bills. What's your bottom line?" "Our bottom line is that we'll make you more money by treating your customers like human beings instead of profit margins. We'll charge you exactly what the work is worth, not a penny more, not a penny less." Harrison exchanged glances with his associates. "We'll be in touch." After they left, Alexander remained seated while Maya gathered her materials with shaking hands. She'd either just saved her career or destroyed it, and she couldn't tell which. "Walk with me," Alexander said quietly. They rode the elevator to the roof in silence. The city spread out beneath them, a canyon of glass and steel reaching toward storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Alexander leaned against the railing, his usual armor of authority stripped away. "My father built a company," he said, not looking at her. Construction. Honest work, good people. When I was 12, his business partner, his best friend since. Childhood, embezzled everything. Dad lost the company, the house, his health. He died 3 years later, and with his last breath, he told me never to trust anyone completely. Maya felt her heart breaking for the 12-year-old boy who'd learned that betrayal could kill. That's why you test everyone. Why you push people away. I built Sterling Industries from nothing because I learned that the only person you can truly rely on is yourself. Alexander turned to face her, and the vulnerability in his eyes was like looking at an open wound. But today, watching you fight for something you believed in, instead of just saying whatever they wanted to hear, I remembered what it felt like to believe in someone. A space between them charged with electricity. Maya took a step closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Alexander, I can't, he said, but he didn't move away. I can't be the man who ruins your career before it even starts. What if I'm willing to take that risk? His hand reached up, almost touching her face before he caught himself. You don't understand. There are things about this business, about me, that you don't know. Things that could destroy everything you've worked for. Before Maya could ask what he meant, Alexander's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his entire body went rigid. I have to take this, he answered without waiting for her response. What do you want, Marcus? Maya couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she watched Alexander's expression shift from irritation to something that looked like fear. That's impossible, Alexander said. The contracts were sealed. The investigation was closed. A pause. Alexander's knuckles were white where he gripped the phone. How much time do I have? Another pause. Then Alexander hung up and turned to Maya, and the look in his eyes was that of a man watching his world burn. The Harrison account, Maya said, reading his expression. We got it, didn't we? Alexander nodded absently, but his mind was clearly somewhere else entirely. Alexander, what's wrong? Who was that? He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Maya saw something that terrified her. Desperation, and something that looked disturbingly like goodbye. Maya, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Whatever happens in the next few days, whatever you hear about me or this company, I need you to know that everything I've told you, everything between us, that was real. You're scaring me. What's happening? Alexander's phone buzzed with a text. He read it and closed his eyes like a man receiving a death sentence. They know, he whispered. They know everything. Maya found the truth buried in a stack of financial documents she wasn't supposed to see. It was Friday morning, and Alexander had been unreachable since their conversation on the roof. His office door remained locked. His calls went straight to voicemail, and the entire marketing floor buzzed with nervous energy. Victoria kept shooting worried glances toward Alexander's empty office, and even the usually unflappable receptionist seemed on edge. Maya was organizing files in the conference room when she discovered the folder marked Project Redline tucked beneath a stack of Harrison account materials. Something about the way it was hidden, deliberately placed where it might be overlooked, made her hands shake as she opened it. The documents inside painted a picture that made her stomach turn. Shell companies, offshore accounts, and payments that traced back to Sterling Industries. But it wasn't embezzlement or tax evasion that made her blood run cold. It was worse. Sterling Industries had been systematically sabotaging competitor bids, bribing government officials for favorable regulations, and in at least 3 cases, had deliberately delayed life-saving drug approvals to benefit their pharmaceutical clients. People had died while Alexander's company played games with regulatory timelines. The Harrison account wasn't just another client. It was the centerpiece of a conspiracy that stretched back 5 years, and Maya's presentation had just helped secure the contract that would make it all possible. You weren't supposed to see that. Maya spun around to find Alexander standing in the doorway, but this wasn't the man she'd begun to care about. This was someone else entirely, cold and calculating, with eyes like winter. How long? She asked, her voice barely steady. How long have you known I'd find this? Alexander stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. The moment you walked into my office. Marcus Delacroix, my former business partner, he's been building a case against me for 2 years. He needed someone on the inside, someone clean, someone I might trust enough to give access to. The words hit her like physical blows. You're saying I'm, what? Some kind of corporate spy? I'm saying you're exactly what Marcus needed. An ambitious graduate desperate enough to do anything for a job, smart enough to find what he planted, and naive enough to think you were saving the world with your idealistic presentation. Maya's legs gave out, and she sank into a chair. That's not true. I chose to apply here. Jessica told me about the position. Alexander's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Jessica Martinez, your roommate? The one who conveniently found the job posting with just hours before the deadline? The one who works for Delacroix Industries as a junior analyst. The room spun around Maya. Every conversation with Jessica, every encouraging text, every coincidence that had led her to this moment suddenly looked like pieces of an elaborate trap. You knew. This whole time, you knew I was being used. I suspected from day one. I confirmed it by Wednesday. Alexander moved closer, and Maya could see something broken behind his eyes. Do you want to know what gave it away? You cared, really cared. About the work, about doing the right thing. Marcus always was too clever for his own good. He sent me someone who would break my heart while she destroyed my life. If you knew, why didn't you stop this? Why did you let me? Fall for me? Alexander's voice was soft, almost gentle, and that made it worse. Because I wanted to believe, just for a few days, that someone could look at me and see something worth saving instead of something worth destroying. Maya stood on shaking legs. People died, Alexander. Those drug approvals you delayed, those were real people with families. You think I don't know that? Alexander's composure finally cracked, and raw pain bled through. You think I sleep? At night? You think I don't see their faces every time I close my eyes? Then why? Why do any of this? Alexander was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the city through the conference room windows. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of years of justification wearing thin. Because Marcus destroyed my father, and I swore I'd build something so powerful that no one could ever do that to me again. But somewhere along the way, I became the monster I was trying to protect myself from. Maya felt tears she couldn't stop burning behind her eyes. So what happens now? I give this evidence to Marcus, you go to prison, and everyone pretends justice was served? That was the plan. Was? Alexander looked at her, and the mask he'd worn for so long finally fell away completely. I'm going to disappear. Tonight. Marcus can have Sterling Industries, but he can't have what these files really represent. There's a second set of books, records that implicate him in everything he's accusing me of. Our partnership didn't end because he found a conscience. It ended because he wanted a bigger cut. Maya's mind raced. You're talking about running, leaving everything behind. I'm talking about finally doing the right thing. Those files you're holding, they're copies. The originals, along with evidence of Marcus's involvement, are already on their way to the FBI. By Monday morning, both Sterling Industries and Delacroix Industries will be under federal investigation. And you'll be long gone. Alexander nodded. I've got accounts Marcus doesn't know about, safe houses, new identities. I can disappear completely. Maya looked down at the files in her hands, and back at Alexander. Or what? You said or, like there was another option. Alexander's eyes searched her face desperately. Come with me. The words hung in the air between them like a bridge spanning an impossible chasm. Come with me, Alexander repeated. We both know you can't go back to your life after this. Marcus will destroy you the moment he realizes you've been played as thoroughly as everyone else. But if you come with me, you're asking me to throw away my entire life for someone who's been lying to me since the moment we met. I'm asking you to save yourself from people who've been using you since before you even knew my name. Alexander stepped closer, close enough that Maya could see the desperate hope in his eyes. I know I don't deserve it. I know I have no right to ask. But Maya, for the first time in 15 years, I want to be someone better than the man I've been. And I can't do that alone. Maya stared at him, her heart tearing itself apart. Outside, storm clouds were rolling in, darkening the sky like a promise of the chaos to come. I need time to think. We don't have time. Marcus will be here within the hour, and once he realizes what's happening. Alexander's phone buzzed. He read the message and his face went pale. He's here. He's in the lobby right now. Maya had 30 seconds to choose between the life she'd planned and the life she never saw coming. Alexander moved with practiced efficiency, pulling a go-bag from behind his desk and a passport she'd never seen before. Through the floor to ceiling. Windows, storm clouds pressed against the glass like the city itself was holding its breath. A service elevator, Alexander said, checking his watch. We can reach the parking garage before Marcus makes it to this floor. Maya stood frozen in the center of the office, the damning files still clutched in her hands. Everything she'd believed about her life, her choices, her future, lay scattered around her like debris from a collision she never saw coming. Maya. Alexander stopped packing and looked at her, really looked at her, the way he had that first day when she'd walked into his office, with nothing but desperation and determination. I won't lie to you anymore. If you come with me, we'll be running. Forever. New identities, new cities, always looking over our shoulders. It's not the life you deserve. And if I stay? Alexander's smile was heartbreaking in its honesty. Marcus will destroy you to get to me. That's what he does. He finds the thing you care about most and uses it as a weapon. The elevator dinged. In the distance, and Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Marcus Delacroix was coming, and with him, the end of everything she thought she knew about herself. There's a third option, Maya said quietly. Alexander raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. We don't run. We don't hide. We face this head on. Maya, you don't understand. Marcus has resources, connections, power that what? That can stand. Up to the truth? Maya held up the files. You said you sent copies to the FBI, but what if we gave them something better than copies? What if we gave them witnesses? The idea formed in her mind like a photograph developing, gaining clarity with each passing second. You testify against Marcus. Full cooperation, complete disclosure. And I testify about how he manipulated me, used me, turned me into an unwitting accomplice. Alexander stared at her like she'd suggested they jump off the roof. Maya, if we do that, if we stay and fight, I'm going to prison. Maybe for decades. Is that really what you want? What I want, Maya said, surprising herself with the steel in her own voice, is for the people who died because of those delayed drug approvals to matter. I want the families who lost everything while you and Marcus played your games to see justice. And I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror without seeing someone who ran away when things got difficult. The elevator dinged again, closer. This time, Alexander closed his eyes, and Maya could see him making calculations, weighing odds, preparing for the choice that would define the rest of their lives. If we do this, he said, opening his eyes to meet hers, we do it together. Whatever comes next, whatever they do to us, we face it together. Maya nodded, feeling something settle into place in her chest. Together. Alexander pulled out his phone and dialed a number Maya had seen him call countless times, but never answered. Agent Morrison? This is Alexander Sterling. I'm ready to talk. The office door burst open, and Marcus Delacroix strode in like he owned the place, which, Maya realized, he probably thought he did. He was older than Alexander, maybe mid-40s, with silver hair and the kind of smile that looked expensive. Alexander, my old friend, I was hoping we could have a conversation before you did something stupid. Too late for that, Marcus. I did something stupid 15 years ago when I trusted you. Marcus's smile widened as he noticed Maya. And this must be our little spy. Miss Rodriguez, I want you to know how grateful I am for your service, though I suspect your loyalty is about to be tested in ways Jessica didn't prepare you for. Maya felt rage building in her chest like a furnace. Jessica was my friend. Jessica was my employee. Just like you were, though you were too naive to realize it. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed Maya a series of photos, all of her and Alexander working late, standing close on the roof, moments that could be interpreted as personal involvement. Insurance, you might say. Alexander has a history of inappropriate relationships with employees. These photos will ensure your testimony carries exactly the weight I want it to. Alexander stepped forward, and Maya could feel the violence radiating from him like heat. Leave her out of this, Marcus. Your fight is with me. On the contrary, my fight is with everyone who stands between me and what I've earned. Marcus pocketed his phone and straightened his tie. Now, I believe you have some files that belong to me. The sound of footsteps in the corridor made everyone turn. Federal agents in dark suits filed into the office, led by a woman with sharp eyes and an expression that suggested she'd seen enough corruption to fuel nightmares for decades. Alexander Sterling? She asked. Agent Morrison. Thank you for coming. So quickly. Marcus's confidence flickered for just a moment before reasserting itself. I'm Marcus Delacroix. I believe there's been some confusion here. I'm the one who contacted federal authorities about Mr. Sterling's criminal activities. Agent Morrison pulled out a tablet and scrolled through what Maya could see was a lengthy document. Mr. Delacroix, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, bribery of federal officials, and accessory to negligent homicide in the deaths of 17 people whose medical treatments were delayed due to regulatory manipulation. The color drained from Marcus's face. That's impossible. Alexander Sterling is the one who provided us with 5 years of recorded conversations, financial records, and documentary evidence of your involvement in every crime we're investigating. Agent Morrison nodded to one of her colleagues, who moved toward Marcus with handcuffs. Mr. Sterling has agreed to full cooperation in exchange for a reduced sentence. Maya looked at Alexander in shock. When? The phone call on the roof. I've been building a case against Marcus for 2 years, ever since I realized what I'd become and what he'd made me complicit in. Alexander's voice was quiet, resigned. I knew he tried to destroy you to get to me. I couldn't let that happen. Marcus fought against the handcuffs like a caged animal. You think this makes you a hero, Alexander? You're still going to prison. You're still going to lose everything. Alexander looked at Maya, and the peace in his expression was something she'd never seen before. I'm not losing everything. I'm finally choosing to save what matters most. Agent. Morrison turned to Maya. Ms. Rodriguez, we'll need your statement about how Mr. Delacroix manipulated you into corporate espionage. Your cooperation will be noted in our report. As the agents led Marcus away, Alexander turned to face Maya one last time. I'm sorry for all of it. For the lies, for the manipulation, for putting you in danger. But I want you to know that everything I felt for you, everything between us, that was the most real thing in my life. Maya reached for his hand as Agent Morrison moved toward him. How long? 5 years, probably. Maybe less with good behavior and continued cooperation. I'll wait. Alexander smiled, and it transformed his entire face. Don't wait for me, Maya. Build something beautiful. Be someone better than either of us ever was. What if I don't want to be better without you? Agent Morrison cleared her throat gently. Mr. Sterling, it's time. Alexander squeezed Maya's hand once, then let go. As the agents escorted him from the office, he turned back one last time. Maya? Yeah? Thank you for reminding me what it feels like to be human. Maya stood alone in Alexander Sterling's office. As storm clouds finally broke open above the city, rain washing the windows clean, she looked out at the skyline, at the lights beginning to flicker on as evening approached, and for the first time in months, she could see a future that belonged entirely to her. 5 years wasn't forever, and some things, Maya was learning, were worth waiting for. The end.